So, in a not so stunning report, we have just found out, after really years of misinformation, even I've been partial to, that Jeffrey Epstein had to plead down as a sex offender to being with a 14-year-old girl. However, that does not seem to be the case. You see, as part of this sweetheart deal, the girl that he was actually charged with was 16 years old. This is a bombshell report from the Washington Post. This is coming out of the federal investigation. This is all pretty brand new stuff, folks. And why is this important? Well, I got to tell you, the reason it seems to be extremely important to me is the fact that he doesn't have to register in 30 states. 30 states. Okay? Think about that. Now, that's according to Wikipedia, but there are 30 states that he's fine in. No big deal. No big deal. Think about that, folks. Think about how unjust that is, how wild that is. Right behind me is a little bit of a graph, but I want to go on because, he owns property. The guy could own property anywhere, but he owns property in New Mexico especially. Okay, let's just read some of this. So the younger girl who initially notified police has long been believed that hers was the case referenced in the guilty plea, her attorney said. Some media accounts said as much. Publicly available charging documents contained no name or age, however. Pressed to resolve the ambiguity, state prosecutors in Florida recently provided the Post with the victim's date of birth. The decision to charge Epstein with a crime involving an older teen, part of a plea deal that has already been criticized as overly lenient, has eased his obligations to register as a sex offender in New Mexico, for instance, where Epstein has a 7,600-acre property called Zorro Ranch. And I want to scroll right down here where it says this. They were cutting a plea deal. It was not a prosecution, said attorney Spencer Coven, who represented the 14-year-old girl who alerted police. Referencing the number of victims, court records say federal prosecutors identified they had a grab bag of 40 girls to choose from. 40 girls. This already sweetheart deal just continues to get worse and worse and worse. For those who don't know, he actually settled a suit back in December. I believe it was December 4th on the morning. Now, a lot of people were kind of upset about this because it was viewed upon as it shut girls up, right? They weren't going to be able to come out, but that's not really the case. Now, in this, you'll hear the lawyer for the lawyer that sued. Yeah, see, this is a 10-year-old case in the respect that Jeffrey Epstein sued this man right here. He was representing many of these victims. His name is Bradley Edwards. And while he was representing these victims, Epstein began to lie about him, smear him, and then take him to court. Now, instead of folding and stop representing and getting out of the case, he countersued Epstein. That case, I believe, took well over 8 years to get to this point where they were at jury selection. The morning of jury selection, Jeffrey Epstein settled. Now, in order to settle, there was an undisclosed cash amount. But I want you to hear first what this lawyer says about upcoming trials because of this verdict. Now, this, again, is this man, the lawyer for Bradley Edwards, who was the original lawyer that was sued by Epstein and then countersued.
We set out to defend against a vicious attack on the reputation of Bradley Edwards by Jeffrey Epstein, a self-proclaimed billionaire, a serial sexual abuser of children. The assault was particularly egregious because it involved the malicious misuse of the civil justice system. It involved the use of the civil justice system as a tool for extortion.
So that he's referring to Epstein's initial lawsuit against Edwards. Now, I want to read to you here what Epstein had to say. Now, remember, Edwards represented many of these women. While Mr. Edwards was representing clients against me, okay? This is so key. I filed a lawsuit against him in which I made allegations about him that the evidence conclusively proves were absolutely false. Okay? I made stuff up. That's one. First sentence. Second sentence. The truth was that his aggressive investigation and litigation style was highly effective and therefore troublesome for me. The lawsuit I filed was my unreasonable attempt to damage his business reputation, and cause Mr. Edwards to stop pursuing cases against me. It did not work. Despite my efforts, he continued to do an excellent job for his clients and through his relentless pursuit held me responsible. I am now admitting that I was wrong and that the things I said to try to harm Mr. Edwards' reputation as a trial lawyer were false. I sincerely apologize for my false and hurtful allegations I made and hope some forgiveness for my acknowledgement of wrongdoing. So in other words, everything that Edwards was doing was correct. Everything that Edwards had said and put forth in court was correct. And everything that Epstein did against him was false. Now, I want you to hear Edwards really quickly here so you can kind of understand where he's coming from on all this. Because again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this silences the victims. I don't think that's the case.
Epstein, and then upon my return, surrender. So again, I thank you very much. We'll be resourced.
The court made it very clear that he was not going to allow this case to turn into a trial about whether and to what extent Jeffrey Epstein molested dozens of children. It was not going to be about that. It was only going to be on Jeffrey Epstein's assault on me.
But again, he says these things. And then his lawyer later on, when asked about Weinstein, and he talks about Weinstein, this gentleman behind me, talks about Weinstein and that he moved in the same circles as Jeffrey Epstein and that he was basically running Hollywood. Now remember, there may not be that many allegations of Harvey Weinstein going after underage girls, but we have at least one, and I'm just going to say that she's currently making headlines dating Pete Davidson, Kate Beckinsale, when she was pre-18. Now in California, the consent age is 18. Just putting that out there. And that Epstein not only moved in the same circles, but his lawyer, who we saw earlier, said he slithered in the same circles. So I want you to get this through your head, okay? 16 years old, legal in 30 states. 30 states. Take a look behind me, guys. That's the age of consent in a lot of places. In a lot of places, the man behind me owns properties. And remember when he did serve prison time, he would serve prison time at night and have an ankle bracelet on. And there's some questions of when he was checking in, if he was checking in at all, how long he was spending there, if he was even spending the nights. And this shows you what money and power can get you when you have a black book that lists people like Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and even Trump. You know, we've been critical of Trump in the past, but from the evidence that we've uncovered, the lawyer that we just featured actually said Trump was one of the only people that called him back when he was beginning to litigate against Jeffrey Epstein. And that speaks volumes about Trump when you had so many high-level, high-profile people, Tommy Mottola, in that black book. And just on one last note, let's talk about how that black book even surfaced. The only reason we know about the black book And again, the lawyer, Bradley Edwards, alludes to in another interview that there were many black books, and this was for a specific location. However, the only reason that that came out was because a butler within Jeffrey Epstein's home leaked that. He did more prison time than Epstein himself, and folks, he is no longer with us. And that's fact, Jack. You can look up everything I've said, and it is making me sick that Epstein, again, does not have to even register in 30 states as a sex offender. Guys, thank you for watching. Please hit that like button, the thumbs up, share this video, subscribe, and hit those notifications so you actually see it in your feed. Thanks again for watching.